we first moved away, we come back every time we got a chance. We'd come back for every holiday. We always was here for Christmas and Memorial Day. And most of the time, well, I think, Daddy had said at one point at least once a month, we'd come home just for the weekend. We'd leave Chicago on a Friday night and drive all night long and get down here in time to visit people, go over to my Mama's, go to Granny and Pa's, see some cousins, eat Sunday dinner, and then head back up because he worked hoot owl, so we got back in time for us to go to school or just miss part of a day of school. We kept thinking that we were going to come back. I mean, we didn't ever go to and settle into Chicago thinking that was home. This was home. My family's story is a lot like millions of other people's migration story. Leaving the mountains was hard. We left our home, the place we felt that we belonged, and moved off to a very different world.
My granddaddy was a miner, but he finally saw the light. He didn't have much, just a beat-up truck and a dream about a better life. Grandmama cried when she whipped by. You never heard such a lonesome sound. Pretty soon the dirt road turned into blacktop Detroit city bound. Down that hillbilly highway, on that hillbilly highway, that old hillbilly highway goes on and on.
I was surprised as I grew older to see how much of my own identity was tied up with this place and these rocks and these trees and the garden and the pictures that my Mama had given me, my Mama and Granddaddy. One of the things I feel lucky about having the grandparents that I did have was spending time with them and listening to them tell stories that they've heard their parents tell about being in the mountains. By the late 1700s, early 1800s, people were settling down and claiming land, setting up their homesteads. By the time my grandparents were born, several generations had lived on the same tracts of land in eastern Kentucky. Mama says, they had to work really hard, and she's heard her daddy say that. There were a lot of kids, but they had what they needed, and they didn't feel, that they were doing without. About 100 years after the settlers first came, the population of the mountains began changing again around the turn of the century. And the raw materials that needed to grow were here: the timber, coal, oil, and gas. Once that industry became dominant, the whole economy had changed.
And I want a whole lot of heat because I'm going to get away from here. In 1915, some engineers from United States Steel and Coke Company surveyed this area to find large coal reserves in this part of Appalachia. The town Lynch, Kentucky, is really an example of what big money can do when it gets ready to do. Of course, the town was named for the president of U.S. Steel, Mr. Lynch, at that time. Lynch was a classical model town, literally built from the paper up to be exactly what the company wanted it to be. That is to say, the houses, the roads, the streets, the power lines, and everything was all put together like some neat industrial puzzle of course, built around the production of coal. People who came here found this to be a kind of cosmopolitan place. It's imagined by me and talking to folk that it must have been a place where they saw lots of different kinds of people doing different kinds of things from different cultural focuses, so to speak. But here in the middle of these little mountains was just this little New York, if you wanted to call it that.
Ranch was a beautiful town I ever seen. You know, looked like a coal town, you know. It was beautiful. Anything you want in the big store. I think the big store is still up here. They never turned down. They had a boarding house, looked like a hotel, you know. We had a bed house, I think a bed house still there yet. 300 men can take a shower at one time. Big, nice, big bed house I ever seen anywhere. We had a big dance hall, big show house. Oh, you talk about the booming town, it was booming. It was a lot of work, you know, them day picking a shovel, you know, hand work, you know, open up coal mine, building a railroad. It was no pay much, but there was plenty of work. My name is John Bruni. John Bruni. My birthplace is Philadelphia, Italy. We was 3 brothers here, and we come over and land in New York, and from there we went in the West Virginia coal mine, and from there we passed through down in Kentucky, and I worked there about 60 years in Harlan County.
Anna Laszlo. I really originated from Hungary. My mother, father came to this country. My mother ran a boarding house, and my father worked in a coal mine. We come out in 1921. My brother, he was 17, I was 19, and my sister 13. And the hardest part for all these refugees that don't know the language. I couldn't speak a word of English. They needed a lot of men to work in the coal mines. These coal camps, they just, thousands and thousands of people. On Saturday night, they all come to town. It's been so many people, you can hardly move on the streets. And the miners really work for practically for nothing.
My name is Tony Punic. Yeah. Born in Yugoslavia. Come from Yugoslavia in 1912. Then I come to United States. 16 years old when I left. Yeah, I come from the farm. Well, I come in the Lynch. Well, they put me loading coal. Yeah, oh my goodness. You got to be awful careful. Well, they got all different people in there. Yeah, they got all different. Russian, Polish, yeah, Yugoslavia. They got Spanish, Portuguese, Italians, and all kind of people.
Now, when we talk about the people that came to this town, in a sense, this town represents everything America was about with regard to the comings of various white ethnics from Europe. If one goes over my shoulder, you go to what I heard people talk about was the end of the line. But it was also the beginning of a line for a lot of people, because it is on this very railroad track that literally hundreds and thousands of blacks who came into this part of eastern Kentucky some 85, 90 years ago. My father worked here, my grandfather worked here. 3 of Dad's brothers were in this area, so we're all from a coal mining family. They were both escaping the factors that pushed them out of Alabama, including its alabaster racism, but as well they were pulled here by the opportunities to work for wage labor, which is something that black people did not have in Alabama at the turn of this century.
My family originally below Selma, a place called Pleasant Hill, Alabama. We were sharecroppers there, and my father, he left us on the farm, and then he came to Kentucky, up in Harlan County, and started working in the coal mines. And I was born in 1920, and after he worked a while, he decided that he would send for mother and my brother and I. So we arrived in Harlan County about the middle of 22, I believe, about the middle of 22. Coal mining was slave. You had to take the crank auger, you know, and drill up the holes by muscle. Now all of that work in the coal mine then was just like working a mule or something. You had to crawl in coal low, about 28, 30, 32 inches. You just fold up like a pocketbook. And I might say along about that time in the coal mines, if you had to move rock, you moved it for nothing. You had to drag your timbers, you had to drag your rails. Sometimes the track man couldn't come fix your track. You had to set up your own track. All of this was done for nothing. That was before United Mine Workers came in. If you mentioned United Mine Workers at that time, they would beat your brains out, take you and throw you off to camp, you and your family. And most of the stevedore work, slave work, was pertaining to blacks. Those who wasn't black, if the coal was high, they were moved to the better section. And you got the bad top and the water holes and the low coal.
And for days, we didn't even see them, you know. It'd be dark when they go to work, and we be in bed when they come back, you know. And sometimes you didn't see them till Sunday morning, you know. And that just was a way of life with the people on this little coal mining community where I grew up. We grew up, though. We grew up there on upside that hill down there on that mountain. I think back now, we wasn't living, we was just existing. Just existing. And a man who had a big family, he had no choice but to go in that mine. And it was just a struggle for a black coal field woman. If you went to school, you didn't go any further than 8th grade. But nobody able to send you to no high school. And the best thing the girl could hope for is to find a boy that had a job to marry, go right through the same stuff she just come out of, you know? You go right through the same thing, and it was just a way of life. So it was pretty rough. But seemed like, it was more togetherness then than it is now. Because look like everybody was on the same level. One didn't have much more than the other, if they had anything at all. Everybody was on the same common level. If I ate beans, you ate beans too, every day. I can say that for the blacks, and I know some poor whites as well that was struggling just like the blacks.
This portal here, this opening, was opened roughly 3 years after production began in Lynch, Kentucky. In this area, there was a vast operation that kept the mules and the ponies that went in this mine also. These ponies and work animals were taken in there to pull the coal out before the advent of joy loaders and other such machines that later came. Now, when we mention the coming of the machines, which was around the mid-20s, early 30s, but particularly into the 1940s and 50s, that's when we saw what one would say was the cotton gin of coal mining. When those machines came along, they replaced men because one machine could essentially do what 100 men did by hand loading. This town was so structured that to lose your job also meant to lose your place to stay notwithstanding losing your standing in the community and your family and this and that. So ultimately it meant that people had to go someplace else. Generally it meant going to Cincinnati, going to Dayton, going to Cleveland, going to Chicago, going to Indianapolis and Louisville and Lexington, the places where you'll find the bulk of my generation and persons just slightly 10 or so years older than me, folk in their 50s who left here in the 50s. So essentially what it meant, of course, was when the machines came, the people had to go. And it was as simple as that.
Tell me, what will a coal miner do? Tell me, what will a coal miner do when he go down in the mine? Joy loaders he will find. Tell me, what will a coal miner do? Miners' poor pocketbooks are growing lean. Miners' poor pocketbooks are growing lean. They can't make $1 at all. Here's every place of fall. Place it all on that coal loading machine. Tell me, what will a coal miner do?
Here was one time a fine little town we had down here. We had soda fountains, we had dentist office, used the clothing stores, movie theaters, a fine city hall, and a good mayor, and we were proud of both of them. 5 grocery stores, 2 barber shops, a billiard hall, a dentist office. We had a nice little bank, an emergency hospital. Over that bridge, 5 to 6 trains a day, as much as 500 people come in. Right here beside the Castle Fork of the Marbone Creek, we had a growing town. Population 2,200. Nothing like this ever here before.
We got 6 in this family. Let's load them up.
Okay, 6 in this family. 3 boxes of wheat, 5 bags of meal, 1 box of cheese, 1 bag of flour. Take it easy, huh?
All right.
Tell me, what will a coal miner do?
In the last 20 years, something like 400,000 people have moved out of the 22 counties of southeast Kentucky, many of them outside the state. Do you have any children?
Yeah, I've got 8 kids. Got 3 of them in Indiana working.
They're working in this area, you say?
No,
in Indiana.
They ain't working in Indiana. See, when they completed school, there wasn't nothing left here for them to do but to go get them a job, you see. And they just took off out there and got them a job.
How do people like yourself, whose families have lived here for generations, feel about young people moving out and going to other states?
Well, naturally, you know, you don't want to see kids have to go away, but when it's nothing left to do, you see. But to do that, then they've got to go and find employment someplace else, see. There's nothing here for them to do. They just can't make it.
After the mine shut down, it's just a different thing. Seemed like a different world, you know. You don't, your children's away, and had to go away. You know, they couldn't get jobs.
When we did come back those few times, what did he do then? I remember
he worked in the mines part of the time.
He did.
With you, Powell. Mm-hmm.
Before Billy went to Chicago, he worked over Corden Wharf's Hager. kept me scared to death all the time, and he said he's going to go, and I said, get gone. I can't keep watch you and all these other men, too.
Is that right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he couldn't, he was afraid Billy'd get hurt.
I'd make
He
a
had
dozen
work
trips
in
a day
mind.
to see about him, you know.
And he'd go to see about him so often, it's bad on him, you know. And when he come out of the mines, then well, he went on to Chicago. You like your children near you, but when you can't have them, you can't. Then Bobby went up there. He went to serve 4 years in the Air Force. And then he went to Chicago and worked and went to school. And we just had a big family and had a hard time trying to bring them up.
I didn't feel good about leaving. But, yeah, getting a job making, what was it? $2.50, $2.75, something like that. Maybe $3. Close to $3 an hour.
So you thought you were doing pretty good?
It was damn good money from what we had been doing. First job I had was loading boxcars, freight in the freight yard, you know. Christmas rush. Then after that, went to work in a steel warehouse.
Me, I went to factory. The first job I ever had, you know, other than a grocery store down south when I was younger. And I actually enjoyed it. It was, you know, I was earning money. And from that I went to, well, in all these years I've done a lot of different things.
We're about 8 blocks back off the lake. And my first memories, we'd come into the city at night, you know, and all the lights were strung up everywhere, sort of that bead-like appearance. But I remember just thinking, this is gonna fall. This isn't real, you know. As a child, I was thinking, it's gonna fall. It made me feel real nervous. And then the elevated train was always something that I took to school, used to go downtown, but just careening around that concrete and that metal, I just always had this feeling like this is a crazy way to live, you know, all this sound, and it didn't feel real natural to me, didn't feel too good. There's this street I've spent a lot of time on, you know, as little people. My mom would have us by the hand, and it was always, there were lots and lots of bars, still right many of them left over from the old days, but it was sort of a bad street, and she'd just hold her hand real tight, and depending on what kind of situation it was, and there were always fights going on. Not always, but lots of times you'd come down the street, and I remember just seeing people, you know, walking somewhere being bloody and asking my mom, well, what's happened, or, you know, what's going on now? But just that feeling of tightening up and learning how to develop certain survival mechanisms. You know, like my dad would say, walk on the outside of the sidewalk. If something happens to you, somebody gets after you, run into the street. You know, somebody will see you there, a car will stop. You know, never, always look when you're going by the alleys. You know, never carry your purse out where people can get to it. So you sort of, you know, tighten up, you close off. You know, instead of walking down the street, you know, as little people and being able to say hi. It was don't look at people, don't say hello, because you'll get into trouble.
At work, you learn pretty soon who didn't like hillbillies, or who you know, who to stay away from, and who. But mostly, I'd say 95% of the people I got along with good. But we had quite a few fights too. When they found out but they learned right fast that Southerners didn't argue. They just knocked. It was just this fight and get it over with. Somebody knocked the hell out of somebody, and then a few times. But as we got turned down for apartments, because that's where, you know. But I didn't feel like we was getting whatever, discriminated or whatever, because I figured, what the hell, if they don't want me, I don't want to live there anyway. But the one building we moved in, I think maybe they was just maybe 2 families beside the owner or manager, but what wasn't from Pike County. What,
Yeah, they were all Southerners.
Or east of Virginia around. So pretty well you had to move in a one to find a...
But there was only a couple of places, like within these 3 blocks, you know, east-west blocks, that wouldn't rent a Southerner an apartment. If they had too many kids, they wouldn't. There just wasn't adequate space. But it didn't take us very long to get a decent place to live. And from there, we pretty well stayed put.
My mother's brother was here and had an apartment and had a job. So when they came looking for work, they had a place to stay. My dad went out and got a job at Core Hummel Steel where Uncle Junior was working. Then a little bit later, his brother got out of the service, my Uncle Bobby, and they came up with their family. And we helped them get situated in a place to live. And I guess my dad helped him show him around where to get jobs. So that was going on with all kinds of families.
Where is now my father's family? They were here so long ago, seated round the old home fireside, brightened by the ruddy glow. We shall all be reunited in that land beyond the skies, where there'll be no separations, no more parting, no more sighs. Some have gone to lands far distant, and with others made their home. Some upon the earth have wandered, all their lives have chose to roam. We shall all be reunited in that land beyond the skies, where there'll be no separations, no more parting, no more sighs. Some have gone from us forever, far with us they could not stay. They have all dispersed and wandered, gone away, so far away. We shall meet beyond the river in that land of pure delight. Without sickness, sorrow, sorrows, we'll have joys ever bright.
So a lot of people went to work in the steel mills, the factories. Some people who might not have gotten regular steady employment in this, who lived in this community might have done something like the day labor. There were lots and lots of day labor places that sprung up. People would arrive, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, get on a bus, be shipped out to do a day of work at a time, maybe go to a different place the next time. Of course, in that instance, you didn't have unions, you didn't have any of the benefits of a regular job. So this city has always recruited, poor people to fulfill its labor needs. There's a couple buses across the street. I used to work in a little grocery store, and I was a cashier. I was 15, 16 years old, and the people who worked on day labor would come in, have maybe $20, $22 for work for the day, and the people who own the store told me, charge each of them $2, so here come these poor old people with their whole day's worth of wages, and I'd charge them $2 to get their check cashed because they didn't have a bank account or anything, didn't know anybody, so it was just a real rip-off.
Winter it wasn't so bad, but when it started getting spring and you'd start looking out the factory doors, mine
wanting to go home.
Yeah. One time it was a real beautiful day in the spring, and where I'd worked, I'd been there quite a few years. They liked me, the foreman did, real good, superintendent. He come by and he said, when you taking off? He knew I was thinking about going south.
To me, Bill always wanted to go back south, but truthfully, I never wanted to go back because I saw a better chance for me, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the work I was doing. Everything I started to do was a challenge.
Bill didn't want
I
to go
had
back
to
to
do it.
Eastern Kentucky.
He wanted to go back south, but and it was never. I would have gone if he, you know, if he had have, but I never really pushed the issue.
I think she adjusted maybe a lot better than I did. And then it got so if she didn't want to go, I'd just cut out myself sometimes. But we went once a month about anyway. Load up on Friday night if I was working days. Usually I had a job days and or me nights and her days or something, and then we'd cut out. If I was working second shift, we'd cut out when I come in and throw the kids in the back. Drive all night with a case of beer, crack wear out a beer. Oh, bologna and cheese and.
I wonder if they didn't get food poisoning.
Yeah,
Really?
Well, you know, you try to rush, you hurry. Well, you know you want to hurry back. You don't want to miss a day. And throw them out on the floor. It's lay there till we stop. And now we're talking about this is old 52, 41 and 52. You didn't have a lot of 4-lane then. It was, you just had to bear all that. Crazy.
One of the things, being sort of a rebel and individualist that my father's always been, is that the factories was really something he hated. So he wound up managing car washes, working on cars, doing things that allowed him more flexibility and more freedom, and then doing janitor work, and then eventually starting to work with the city, which was a patronage job, which was a whole other can of worms then. Some leadership, some Appalachian leadership was needed by the Democratic Party in the community, and my dad was always pretty political and knew these folks, so they were saying, come on, we'll give you a good job. You know, on the garbage trucks, it paid good. All you have to do is do a lot of work for the Democratic Party. So he did that for, I think, about 11 years. I'm not sure exactly how long, but a right long time. So that was some folks plugged in and sort of got into the system here in the city that way.
This is a group of people that worked in East Kentucky for a number of years in the Eastern Coalfield, who meet each year reminiscing some of the good times they had back in the mountains of Kentucky. They change good times and the sorrows of each other to bring the children, and many of us haven't seen each other in several years. And we spend this time just having a jolly good time.
Mr. French, I think. Yeah, Billy French. They call me home. I'm from Lynch, Kentucky.
What are you doing here?
I'm here for the reunion, Eastern Kentucky reunion.
Where do you live right now?
I live in Fort Wayne, Indiana.
What do you do there?
I'm an employee relations manager with General Electric Company.
Your family from Lynch, Kentucky?
Yes, right.
You have brothers and sisters? Where do they live?
Got 3 brothers and 1 sister live right here in Cleveland.
What about you, sir?
My name is Richard Brown from New York. I was originally born in Lynch, Kentucky. I'm here for the reunion.
And what do you do in New York, Richard?
I work for a sanitation department, and plus I'm an air conditioning refrigeration repairman.
How long have you lived in Washington?
16 years.
What do you do there?
Administrative supervisor for AT&T.
And you went to Lynch High School?
Yes.
What are you doing here today in Cleveland?
Came to see friends from Kentucky.
And where do you live now?
In Boston, Massachusetts. I teach there. I've been teaching there about 10 years now.
Your mother taught in Lynch, I understand.
Yes, about 35 years.
And
yes.
She taught you too?
Yes, she did. Yes, she did.
And you graduated from Lynch High School?
1950.
Hey, Billy,
yeah.
Here's another year from Lynch, Kentucky. Brown? How are you? Where do you live at?
Cincinnati, Ohio.
You probably came one of the greater distances from Los Angeles, California. Is that where you live?
Yes, President.
What does it do for you to come to this every year?
This is the grand finale. This is all of our vacation. It's a reunion of home, peer group, and all of your elders. In our reunions, you can see one of everybody that you grew up with and all of the people that spank you. This is why our discipline is so good. I see. You know, the difference in growing up in southeastern Kentucky and Appalachia is one of the greatest experiences that any child could really have.
I was born in Wilton, Kentucky, but I was raised in Lynch, Kentucky. In the eastern part, up in the hills, the mining.
Okay, and you lived in Lynch. What is your name?
Viola Shively Wallace McDaniel.
Woo! Is it polite to ask a lady? Is it polite to ask a lady her age?
I will soon be 70.
You'll soon be 70.
Christmas Eve. So send me a Christmas gift.
Okay.
Well, I'm from Benham, Kentucky. I'm from Llewellyn, Kentucky, and High Splint, Kentucky, and I've lived in Jenkins, Kentucky.
Okay. Originally, my parents are from Evans, Kentucky.
How old were you when you left?
I was 15.
When I left Benham, I was 17 years of age. I was in Kentucky from 8 months old. So I have to call it home. And I left there when I was 17. I joined the service. And when I come out of the service, then I moved to Cleveland, Ohio. What Kentucky did for us, it brought us up, gave us what we needed, and sent us out in the world to try to help make the world a better place, and this is what we did. And this is why we like to have our reunions in all of the cities of the United States that we possibly can, to show the people what Kentucky is all about. It's not just bloody Harlan County that they remember us.
Well, when you, what I call a mountain person, just home is nowhere but the mountains. Oh, Harlan County, yes, home. We go back from time to time. Whenever somebody died, they always call Reverend Counts to come eulogized, most of the time. And we go back, and it just saddens my heart. Oh, God, I go down through that. And last time I was up on Everett's Hill over there where we were living, the houses they are torn down. The community look like it has grown up. The few blacks that's still over there is, as I use the expression, like hen's teeth. They just scattered around. And I stood on that hill and boy, I cried like a baby. Just broke my heart,
And always asking, when are we going to go home? And Daddy would say, come next spring, we're going home, especially when it'd be the dead of winter. It's about driving crazy. And then finally, I was about 12 years old, and I said, Daddy, I don't think we're going home, are we? And he again would say, well, come next spring. I don't think he could really deal at that time with saying, no, we're not. We're not going to be able to go home because there's no work. We don't own any land. There's no place for us to live, really. So I started thinking at that time that if I was going to go home, that I was going to have to go home by myself. I left and went back to the mountains in August of '76. There had already been a slowdown of migration, of the Appalachian migration into this community, and there had been a beginning of some reverse migration, some people who did go home. I know some people who, like myself, went back to Olive Hill, Kentucky, or down to Tennessee, might have worked there a while and then come back, or might have worked there a while and moved on. But I think, when employment opportunities started to slow down, people, some people started talking about Atlanta and out west, Texas or whatever. People are forced with going and maybe trying to go somewhere else, but I think at this point people realize that there are fewer places to head to because the whole world is becoming more high-tech, especially, the U.S., definitely. Where do you go if you're a worker? So I have family that's out of work and are waiting,
Just no damn work, and they've cut out, like you say, all the people living on $140, $45 a month, paying rent. What they got left? It makes you sick, really. Really people hungry, cold, out of a place to live, freezing in the winter. This is no bull. These news shows you see lined up for food and stuff, and it below zero. That's not stage stuff. That's the truth. You'll never see it as bad. I mean, I've never seen it as bad.
I just got tired of the city. I just can't take it anymore. I can't get used to the buildings and all. I tried. 17 years and I just still haven't adjusted to it. I can't get myself to adjust to living here. It's just too different for me.
Okay.
Put some pillows back there. One rubber.
We live mainly right in the center of all the factories. It's just two streets of houses, and all the rest are factories. See, Baltimore City's divided up in sections. We live in South Baltimore, but we live in the poor. So he goes in September to the 7th grade. And it's just too rough for a child to go in that neighborhood. And I said no.
I had a good job right now. I've been there almost 14 years in the same place, almost 14 years, but they cut her pay. Took some vacation away from us. They call it job concessions, you know, just to stay in business. And I didn't like the work I was doing anyway. I just stayed with it for economic reasons. That's the only reason I stayed. First time I left, when I was 16, I went to Indiana. I went to work out there and stayed 3 years. And I came back and enlisted in the Marine Corps. The day I got discharged, I went to Baltimore and spent the weekend. And Monday, I found a job. First place I applied, they hired me. I knew I needed a job, and I knew there wasn't too much down here. And I only meant to work up there for a year or 2 years. Then moved back here, and I don't know, I got married. And 3 kids later in 17 years, I'm finally getting back here. It's taken me that long, you know. And now, what was all right then, but now the crime's so bad now. My kids, you know, I'm afraid to let them play outside. And well, our house got broken into last month while we were down here. Then Friday night, our father's house got broken into while he was sleeping upstairs.
I gotta get adjusted to it, because I'm used to having running water and being able to walk out the door, go to the store, and don't have to depend on him to take me everywhere. It's great for kids. It would be good for my oldest one. Now I don't know how the girls are gonna like it, but it'd be nice for the oldest son to be able to go hunting and do things with his father.
When I was growing up, I was always in the mountains, more there than I was any place else. And after school, and I'd go hunting and all, and fishing. I just lived in the woods practically. I've just been wanting to get back here so bad. And I just didn't fit in out there at all. I'm not a city person. It's a little rough in the wintertime getting in and out and all, but there's no one bothering you. It's quiet. You hear the birds in the morning and no traffic, no street lights. I just love it. It's a straight line. It's a quarter of a mile to the road, but the way it meanders up through there, it's closer to half a mile when you start walking it. It'd probably take me a couple of weeks to get the house squared away up there and get the weeds cut and everything. Then probably in a couple of weeks' time, start putting in applications.
Because I listened to my mother and father talk, I know that it was a love-hate relationship here. They left for important reasons. They left because they couldn't do with their lives what they wanted to. There wasn't any work. They were worried about whether me and Shuri was going to get a chance to go to school. And I listened to that, so I knew that it was important for me to get that education under my belt and give myself more choices, so that if I was going to come back and the economy here was going to be the same, then I might look at having to create my own job, which is pretty much what I've wound up doing.
Facing.
Yep.
Okay.
Swing that person half a time with your left arm, back in the center with your partner half a turn, and reel it on down. You've got it. I feel really lucky to be doing what I'm doing now and earning my money, making a living, doing things I love. I love to dance, and I've loved to dance since I was a little thing. So doing things like this workshop, today is a workshop in Appalachian Studies, and the people here are teachers. And I guess what I see is real important about that is it's bringing the community and the educational system together and integrating. We no longer hear people saying, come to school and forget that you're a mountain person, change the way you talk, and change all those old ways and drop your values. Instead, at least some folks in the schools are saying, that's wonderful, that's positive. It's good. And a couple sashay down, all the way down and all the way back. Get to the top.
Young people going to school and growing up here, I would like to just see them grow up feeling proud of who they are, knowing who they are, and then basing their decisions on how they want to live their lives and where they want to go, basing that on, on knowledge and doing it with a sense of pride. And it's sort of like you can't go and run and run and run when there's no rock to go to. You know, you run to the rock for the rescue, but there's no rock. Then you look at what your options are and you say, okay, this is what I've got. These are the resources around me, and how can I make do with this?
Okay.
To me, this has always been home, and I think to my kids this will be too. Well, my grandfather bought the land, I think early 1900s he bought the land, but I think he got it from his father. It's been the family for a long time. I don't know, it seems like there's a lot of pressure up there, in the city. I don't know how to explain it. It's just, I feel more myself down here. Walk out in the morning, and watch the sun come up over the mountains and all. Up there I just felt closed in, boxed in.
It's different. That's it. I miss my old house. I miss having all the rooms.
Well, I thought I'd, find some kind of job within a month or so. I figured something would turn up. I didn't realize how bad it was down here until I got here. I put in applications all the way from here over to Hazard and Cumberland, all, in the immediate area around here, but so far nothing.
If you don't get a job soon, I think I'm going to be -1 on me. What's out, Nita?
That's okay, but I had better days.
Yeah.
Real better days.
I liked it because we get to go outside and now we get in the bar in the morning. One little time we go home, we went outside. I know, but I'm never getting in the seesaws ever again.
You made new friends?
I haven't got a lot. Yeah, you did. Got a whole bunch. You even got a boyfriend.
I wanted to get my kids out of the city, but I hated them to have to leave all their friends up there and all. You know, they grew up with them all their life and all.
Neither.
Now I'd like to just stay in one place and never have to move again.
I'll stick it out for the kids. That's the only reason I moved down here.
I'm moving to Florida.
I'll move.
Let you stick me down in Boston. Don't come back.
I still, miss a paycheck coming in every week. It's kind of rough. We want to build another house and all, but until something comes along, we just stick it out like this.
No, I hope that by next year I can have our own bathroom. I'm running water. You promised me that.
Sounds like a good job. It's hard when it takes all you make one week to live to the next week. They say the mines, they're cutting back, and because every time they introduce a new machine or something, it knocks 2 or 3 people out of their jobs. I guess it's progress, but to me it's kind of a backwards progress. It seems to be hurting people rather than helping them. It's more profit for the owners, of course. It's bad on the guy at the bottom end of the line. A friend of mine, well, he was laid off for about 3 weeks, I guess, but he got another job. He was a mine foreman. He had foreman's papers, so he was only out of work about 3 weeks, but he was making like $14 an hour. Now he's only making like $4 an hour. It's a big drop. Went from a union mine to a non-union. There's a big difference there also. A lot of it's the foreign coal, they bring it from Colombia and all, bring it in, and the price of oil, where it drops so low, that really hurt the coal mines are saying, because they burn diesel fuel as cheap as they can. Coal, big power companies and all, so that's hurting the coal situation also.
Tell me, what will a coal miner do? Tell me, what will a coal miner do? When he go down in the mine, joy loaders he will find. Tell me, what will a coal miner do?
Today, if you're not in computers or robotics or something, you're just about lost. But I guess I always need carpenters and bricklayers. So I'm going to try to get some kind of retraining. I'm going to stick it out, definitely.
People, historically have had to deal with this boom and bust with the coal industry. Our human resource isn't as needed, and with technology doing what it's doing, you need one person to do the job that, 20 used to, or 30 or 40, who knows? What are you going to do with all these human beings who need work, and this is their home?
It's a training program, what it really is. When we finish, we should be carpenters, or at least carpenters' helpers. Government pays us. It'll last a year. Be able to go out and get employment, with a construction company. Mostly we do remodeling. This is the first new one we built. We got 2 more lined up to build. And it's much better now because, I'm not caught up with my bills, but I am catching up, and we're much better shape financially than we were then. My wife, she's starting to like it better too, because I got a check coming in, and she's meeting new people. She's got out and met some of the people that live around there. And I think both of us are much happier, and the kids love it down here. And I think we'll be able to stick it out now. So I'm going to start building on my house soon, I hope. We've been digging out and back to make a couple more rooms. It's really looking up for us since the last time I talked to you. It's looking up a lot. I think I did the right thing, really.
volunteer days, people have been moving in and out, pushed and pulled by national and international forces. Over and over again, people have made this land their home, but have had to abandon their homeland as times changed. 3 million people left here between 1940 and 1970. Everybody can't come home. I would like to see people have the choice. I would like to see people who want to stay here be able to stay. It's a real hard time. And now what can you do? Where can you go if you've got a family?